Welcome everyone to Strat webinar 2 called Local Land Actions, the Struggle for Land from the Ground Up. Thank you very much for joining us. I am Jocelyn Parot from Urgency, which is the international network of local solidarity-based partnerships for agroecology. And in today's webinar, we are very lucky to have three great speakers with us. They will help us explore the mobilizations which have developed to defend farmland for peasant farming and for agroecology. First, we have Zoe Wrangler from the Ecological Land Cooperative in the United Kingdom. Zoe, welcome on board.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome, Zoe. Then we have Fanny Metra from the Ardèche area in southeast France. Fanny is a sheep farmer, and she's pretty much involved in the Confédération paysanne, the French Farmers Union, which is also a founding member of La Via Campesina. Fanny will speak French. Bienvenue, Fanny. And finally, our third speaker will be Jan Waleszka from Asociație Ampi, a Prague-based group that is developing local food systems based on fair relationships between farmers and consumers, based in Prague, in the Czech Republic. All the experiences you will hear today echo those presented in Your Land, My Land, Our Land, which is a handbook that was just released and published as part of a project on land strategies in Europe. This project involves many different partners. You see their logo displayed here. We have on board the European Coordination Via Campesina. We have the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movement, IFOAM-EU. We have Urgency, the Transnational Institute, Eco-Rallies based in Romania, the Real Farming Trust from England, and of course Terre de Liens, the famous, would say, land trust in France. This project, Land Strategies, aims to support a broad civic movement that is trying to preserve farmland and to facilitate entry into farming of a new generation of agroecological farmers. The handbook has been published by Nyéléni Europe, which is the platform for food sovereignty in Europe and Central Asia. It is freely available in English, in French, and in Spanish, and you can see we just shared the link to the different language version in the chat. Apart from the handbook, the project partners also decided to organize a webinar series. So this is Land Strat webinar number 2, and next webinar is scheduled for the 16th of July, same time. It will focus on access to land for youth. And there will be at least 2 more seminars after the summer, which will focus both on public policies or advocacy for access to land. This webinar will be recorded. It is actually being recorded now, and it will be accessible on the website of the Access to Land Network, which is also appearing now in the chat. And at the same address, you can find more information on upcoming webinars as well. I am very pleased to repeat once again that this webinar is also being interpreted into French and Spanish by a wonderful team of interpreters. So I would like to give a really huge thanks, and it's a bit a pity we cannot hear your applause, but to Emma and Venla in the French booth, Melina and Cristobal in the Spanish booth, and Danila, Joe, and Tian in the English booth. I repeat again that you can see the button for interpretation channels in the bottom right corner of your screen. Beside the participants button, you may choose between English, French, and Spanish, and at any point of the time, you can also choose to listen to any of the interpretation booths or turn back to the original language. And if you have technical questions, you are welcome to use the chat. Just remember that we have both the chat and we have the question and answer part, which I will also present briefly. Here is the menu for today. So we'll start with a very brief overall introduction of the handbook, followed by one initial question for each of our three panelists. We will then move to a series of questions to the panel. And later on, we will also allow you to ask your question. Actually, you can type them anytime in the question and answer part, which is right beside the interpretation button. Once again, I'd like to mention also that we are not organizing this webinar alone. Alicia Sesam from ECDC has been supervising the interpretation and the technical operation, and Timothée Feodorov from Emergency will be facilitating the question and answer. So anytime you can go to the question and answer parts, and you can ask questions that will be then read to the panel. And let me also say that Véronique Riofol, who is also on the call, also had a major role in setting up the webinar. Finally, if you are a social media freak, so if you are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, please use hashtag access to land or hashtag landstrat and mention us in your tweets. Thanks to Tim, who is now sharing the different addresses to put in the tweets. Okay, so let's now have a look at the handbook, the different parts of the handbook, and we will today we will focus on chapters, especially on chapters 3 and 5. We designed the handbook as a tool for land activists and other people interested in preserving the farmland and access to land for peasant farming and agroecology. So we tried to give it, to use it as a way to learn about the range of land struggles and mobilizations that are happening now across Europe. It covers a wide range of approaches. So chapter 1, Land Matters, is on claiming land as a political issue. Chapter 2, Land Laws, is on using existing policy as or using legal framework as in our advantage as a benefit. Chapter 3, Land Struggles, is about grassroots mobilization to defend farmland and peasant farming. Chapter 4 is on using public land for the public benefit. Chapter 5 is on reinventing community solidarity around land and highlighting the new roles of both communities and consumers in this field. And chapter 6 is on increasing the resiliency of our movement through capacity building, through popular education and new funding streams. The book also presents a lot of very concrete tips for practice on each of these approaches. And as we realized when we launched the book, we saw that it comes right at a time when we are witnessing an increasing number of land struggles throughout the continent. And we see also their importance for advancing agroecology and food sovereignty in Europe. I'd like now to turn to our speakers with a couple of questions, one question for each. And the first question will be for Zoe Wrangler from the Ecological Land Cooperative. When we go through the handbook, we see that tension emerges from the experiences that are presented there. We find, or we realize, it is important to find the right balance between the struggles against and the struggles for. And it is also important to manage the transition between different forms of mobilization. Zoe, you are the director of the Ecological Land Cooperative on the one hand, and you are also a member of the Land Workers Alliance, which is a farmers union and a member of La Via Campesina on the other hand. could you please share your own experience of searching for the right link between the co-op and the union, which are two different types of action? Sorry.
Thank you for inviting me here today. This is the first time I've directly connected with land activists across Europe, so it's pretty special for me. And thank you for that really interesting question. The union, the Land Workers Alliance, represents mainly small-scale land workers, and more often than not, they work for themselves. So the union doesn't operate as a traditional union in the sense that it doesn't represent workers in discussions with employers. The Land Workers Alliance instead campaigns for government policies which support members' livelihoods and works to create more favourable conditions for small-scale agroecology and sustainable forestry. And the Land Cooperative, on the other hand, buys land and puts it into cooperative ownership and into agroecology. And although it also campaigns for policy changes, it's a much smaller part of our work. So arguably, they're the same action. With the co-op, we build the structure to take land from private into cooperative ownership and ecological use. And in the union, we work to create more favourable conditions within which our movement can grow.
Thank you, Zoe. Very interesting and very good also for the debate that we will have afterwards. I think we will go back to this kind of dichotomy. Now I'd like to ask a question to our French guest, Fanny. Fanny, there is a long tradition of land struggles in France. Recently, there have been quite a few struggles with a positive outcome, in particular against the building of an airport in Notre-Dame-des-Landes, maybe the most emblematic struggle. And also another one against the building of a new motorway, A45. As a farmer and a union leader, Fanny, what would you say are the recipes for the success that could be observed in the French context?
Alors déjà, je me présente, Fanny Métra. Jocelyn, comme tu l'as dit, je suis paysanne, éleveuse de brebis en Ardèche. Et ça fait déjà une quinzaine d'années que je milite à la Confédération paysanne. La Confédération paysanne, il faut savoir, elle a plus de 30 ans. C'est un syndicat représentatif qui représente à peu près 20% des paysannes et paysans en France. Et c'est vrai que depuis les grandes luttes du Larzac, je pense que les gens en ont entendu parler, contre un camp militaire, et aussi les luttes des fermiers de l'Ouest de la France contre le lobbying des propriétaires. La Confédération paysanne s'est construite en grande partie à travers ces bagarres foncières pour défendre le droit à la terre. Il faut savoir quand même que la majorité des agriculteurs et agricultrices en France sont locataires des terres, ne sont pas propriétaires de leurs terres. Du coup, faut le savoir, le statut du fermage est un statut très, très important en France. En fait, à la Confédération paysanne, on dit souvent qu'on se bagarre, on marche sur deux jambes. Il y a la jambe de la représentation, c'est-à-dire qu'on est représenté dans des commissions de travail avec les représentants de l'État, avec les autres syndicats agricoles, avec les environnementalistes, qui nous permettent en fait de pallier à la spéculation, qui nous permettent de stopper des projets dès le départ d'artificialisation des terres. Et je parle trop vite, désolée pour les interprètes, je vais essayer de parler plus doucement. Et du coup, on est représenté dans toutes les commissions de travail départementales qui permettent en fait d'installer plus de jeunes et de lutter contre tous les projets aberrants qui bétonnent les terres. Il y a cet aspect-là. On travaille aussi au sein des réunions ministérielles pour décider de la loi foncière et porter nos revendications au sein du ministère. Il y a tout ce travail-là institutionnel au sein des comités techniques de la SAFER, qui est un organisme d'État qui permet de préempter et de réviser les prix des terres, qui permettent à des paysans de s'installer et de lutter contre l'achat des terres par des gens qui voudraient utiliser la terre à d'autres usages. Et puis, il y a tout l'aspect action actions d'occupation, actions de défense des terres, actions, manifestations. On l'a vu avec Notre-Dame-des-Landes, qui est très emblématique, ce grand projet d'aéroport qui a réussi à être bloqué grâce à la mobilisation citoyenne et en particulier la mobilisation des paysans. Parce qu'il faut savoir que toutes ces bagarres, que ce soit à Bure, contre l'enfouissement des déchets nucléaires, que ce soit à Roybon contre la création d'un center park, à Sivins contre la création d'un énorme barrage ou ailleurs, en fait, le fait d'avoir les paysans au cœur de ces luttes, ça légitimise le combat. Et il faut savoir aussi que grâce à cette folle idée de créer des ZAD, des zones à défendre, on a réussi à radicaliser l'action et les actions d'occupation. Et c'est ce qui a permis, entre autres à Notre-Dame-des-Landes et ailleurs, de gagner la bagarre. Mais on reviendra peut-être plus en détail tout à l'heure.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Fanny. Thanks a lot. And I think it's great to show that both actually can work together, both struggling against and creating solutions for the future. To all participants and attendees, just let me remind you that you can already start sending questions to the panel in the Q&A, which is in the bottom right part of your screen, just beside interpretation. You can enter the Q&A and you can ask your question. We will collect them and the panelists will address them towards the end of this webinar. Now I'd like to turn to Jan Waleszka from the Czech organization called Ampi. Jan, after hearing from some examples from the United Kingdom and from France, how would you say your context is different? Have you seen a rise of farmers or communities around land in the Czech Republic? And maybe this is for you a way to introduce somehow the Czech farming landscape. By the way, so go ahead and teach us a little bit what are the lessons learned and the situation in the Czech Republic.
So, hello everyone. Am I audible?
You are perfect.
Cool. Thanks a lot. The situation in the Czech Republic is quite different, I think, from the state of the art of the land use in Western countries because of the let's say communist history and then the change in the in 1990s. As at the moment the situation in the Czech Republic is that we have around 3.5 million landowners, which is the picture on the right part of this slide, which means that administratively the fields are owned by dozens of people, but practically in the fields or in the outside, the left picture is the truth, which means that the whole field, which might have, I don't know, 20-30 hectares, is a homogeneous thing, but at the same time it's owned by dozens of people who usually don't have much connection to it because they inherited it from their grandparents in 1990s when they were youngsters. So the connection with land in the Czech Republic is very weak on one part, but on the other hand, like in the ownership layer, it's very strong because a lot of people own land. And the history of Czech agriculture has been totally changed in 1950s when the communism came and actually changed this situation from small fragmented fields into big homogeneous fields. So at the moment, Czech Republic is the country with the highest acreage, average acreage of farm, around 130 hectares is the normal Czech farm, and the plots are also very big. The average plot has 20 hectares, so it's enormous areas to which people who are starting to think about farming cannot access because the small plots are inaccessible because they are part of this homogeneous big 20 hectares fields. So it's very difficult to get into this system of farming, which is perceived more an expert, big scale practice rather than anything else. So what we do here in Ampi, we are cooperating with numerous other organizations and initiatives, mainly in the CSA field, with the small CSA initiatives, community supported agriculture initiatives. We're helping them to set their enterprises, for example, to start farming on a small plot of land, because there are plots that are not, let's say, favorable or profitable enough for the big companies, so they are sometimes accessible, and the owners of those small stripes now start thinking about how to use these stripes, like in some environmentally friendly way, how to not to keep this land be destroyed by the industrial farming that's happening here predominantly in the country. So we are cooperating also with an access to land organization which is called Foundation for Soil, that nowadays is having some 400 hectares of land, which is, yes, this is the picture of people from Foundation, and this land is being given or leased to organic or otherwise sustainable farmers, and we are also helping like the newcomers who want to start their own businesses to get on land, buy some small piece of land to start farming. So this is the case in the Czech Republic, and I hope there will be opportunity to talk about it more later. Thanks, Jocelyn, for asking, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, Jan. Perfect. Actually, since we have this picture in front of us, maybe I'd like to go for the first question for all three of you, which is to know if you could describe a little bit the type of people you manage to mobilize on land issues, on access to land issues. Of course, the answer may be a bit different in the Czech context or even in the UK compared to France. But I would be very curious to know, like, do you have a mix of conscious consumers and farmers? Is there a urban rural divide? So I don't know who wants to start. Zoe, maybe?
I find this question very difficult to answer, and I think that's partly because land issues are hardly talked about in the UK at all. People tend to come to the question of land access from my work in terms of getting people onto land because they would really like to be part of a solution in terms of the environmental crisis. So they see that the land is being used in a largely destructive way in terms of the soil and water pollution, climate change issues, and they want to practice agroecology in order to restore the natural world. And then land access and land ownership becomes an issue. And in general, I would just say that it's barely talked about in the UK at all.
Thank you, Zoe. Fanny, do you want also to answer from the French perspective?
Oui, alors nous, quand les luttes, comme je disais, on a tout ce travail de revendication, de plaidoyer auprès des institutions pour faire avancer le droit à la terre et le droit des paysans. Mais après, quand il y a un projet dérangeant sur un territoire donné, en fait, au départ, c'est un collectif d'habitants et de paysans souvent qui, face aux problèmes, face aux défis, se mettent en mouvement et commencent à lutter contre ce projet. Que ce soit une route ou un centre commercial qui va venir bétonner des terres. Et puis, très vite, les collectifs locaux, souvent, ont besoin de compétences extérieures et ont besoin aussi de faire plus de bruit pour médiatiser l'affaire et pour créer un rapport de force plus important. Et du coup, très vite, les élus, les organisations environnementalistes, paysannes, les associations s'agrègent, convergent autour de la bagarre pour peser plus fort. Il faut savoir quand même qu'en France, en 30 ans, on a perdu 70% des paysans, du nombre de paysans. Du coup, on représente au niveau chiffre pas grand monde. Et on s'est très vite rendu compte qu'on ne pouvait pas lutter seul pour maintenir des terres au monde paysan. Du coup, il faut grossir et trouver du monde à côté. Et on le voit, tous les projets là actuellement complètement démesurés et aberrants, on se rend compte que les collectifs d'habitants se rendent vite compte que au-delà des questions écologiques et environnementales, il y a aussi toutes les questions souveraineté alimentaire. Après la crise du Covid, là, on s'en rend vraiment compte. Les gens se sont posé la question de, en effet, on ferme les frontières, comment on fait pour se nourrir, quoi? Comment on relocalise, comment on fait pour recréer des liens entre ceux qui produisent et ceux qui consomment. Et du coup, dès qu'il y a un gros projet sur un territoire donné, on se rend compte que tout le monde s'agrège à la lutte. Et surtout au niveau des compétences, nous par exemple à la Confédération paysanne, après 30 ans d'expérience, on a quand même des compétences juridiques et autres qui sont importantes pour mener ces bagarres-là, quoi. Voilà. Du coup, c'est très varié et que réellement, pour créer un rapport de force, il faut converger, milieu urbain, milieu rural, mais au-delà, toutes les corporations, en fait, on dit l'alimentation est l'affaire de tous, il faut vraiment essayer de faire boule de neige, quoi.
Thanks a lot, Fanny. Jan, I think you replied a little bit in the initial answer you gave. But maybe you want to elaborate a bit more, once again, on what kind of people do you manage to mobilize in your context? Is it primarily urban dwellers or wannabe farmers, young, old, whatever?
Well, it's very difficult to say because we are not mobilizing wildly. so I would rather say, what's the situation? Who are the people who are now tending to start thinking about the land and its use and the contemporary praxis that the industrial agriculture is using in the country, and those are, as far as I see now, those small landowners, the people who are owning like I don't know 2,000 square meters in this big plot, and they see the deterioration of their property, let's say, of their family property, land that was cultivated by their grandmother, and they see that now it's dead and there's no life in it and so on. And those are the people who are now turning their eye to the land and trying to find a solution. And at the same time, it's very difficult to get them to some action, because there are long-term leases that were signed in 1990s for, I don't know, 20 years with the agricultural companies and so on. But the discourse now is coming to the society in the Czech Republic that those small-scale owners might make the change. They might require their farmers, or the people who are leasing their land, which usually are the big ag companies, but they might at least make some pressure. So this is one group, and surprisingly, the other group are the municipalities. In the Czech Republic, municipalities own some land, even though they sold out a lot of land in 1990s for very low prices, when it was not obvious that the land is high value. And at the moment, especially thanks to the Pirate Party, who made a success here in the municipality city halls in the last few years, the issue of how the land in the ownership of the municipalities is being used was raised. And for example, the city of Prague, actually, who owns, I don't know, 400 hectares of agricultural land around the city, has declared that all this land should be cultivated organically in the next 3 years. And they already made some agro-environmental measures to make the plots smaller, to make maximum 4 hectares of of one crop on one land, divided by some hedges or I don't know, various different division makers, making this homogeneous land fragmented. And also other municipalities are seeking ways how to protect their own land, which is quite surprising in our context, but it seems logical. So we are cooperating, for example, with the city of Prague, and seeking for people who might cultivate this land organically in a small scale way, for example. And also the third group is, as you said, wannabe farmers, the people who come from different environments, usually not farming families, but people who are living in the cities, having like good jobs, I don't know, IT or whatever, and they see that their lives need something else, some new momentum, and those people are seeking for agroecological practices in farming, and they want to start their own small farms on few hectares. So these two streams of municipalities seeking someone to take care for their land organically, and the people who are seeking for changing their life and starting farming are meeting at the moment, and this is quite a change in the game in the Czech Republic at the moment.
Thank you, Jan. And actually, you opened another topic which I'd like to explore with Zoe and Fanny, which is the role of local authorities, let's say. And indeed, I mean, one key player in all these access to land issues are the public land or local authorities. I'd like to ask, Jan, you already explained the rationale behind the municipalities in the Czech Republic going for protecting their land, their farmland. But I'd like to ask Fanny and Zoe, what are the core arguments that in your case you've been using in order to negotiate or engage with local authorities? We can maybe listen to Fanny first for this one. Fanny, you have to turn your microphone on. Il faut que tu allumes ton micro.
Oui, pardon. Du coup, comme je le disais, quand des terres sont menacées par des projets aberrants, du coup, les collectifs d'habitants forcément travaillent main dans la main avec les mairies, avec les collectivités territoriales, très vite, parce que quand il y a une somme importante de gens contre un projet, forcément les élus sont nos représentants vis-à-vis du monde politique. Du coup, tout de suite, ils sont appelés pour créer, en fait, pour avoir du poids, créer un rapport de force plus important, avoir les élus avec nous, forcément, on pèse plus lourd et on est bien obligé de faire avec eux pour faire avancer nos revendications. Et je voudrais juste, par exemple, décrire un peu la situation. Là, en Ardèche, il y a un projet actuellement de construction d'une énorme basilique. Une énorme basilique qui va bétonner une rivière et 4 hectares de terres agricoles, les seules terres plates et fertiles du village. Et en fait, les gens du village sont contre ce projet, les gens de la vallée sont contre ce projet. le parc naturel régional est contre ce projet. Nous, paysans de la Confédération paysanne, nous sommes contre ce projet. Et depuis un an, on a essayé de faire du bruit sur cette affaire. On a essayé de se bagarrer pour dire non, mais c'est pas possible. Il n'y a pas eu d'études d'impact écologique. Il n'y a pas eu d'avis à la population pour récolter un peu les avis de la population. Il y a eu énormément de vices de forme dans la procédure, mais rien ne se fait, rien ne se passe. Et en fait, on se rend compte que des fois, bouger comme ça, manifester, faire du bruit, sans aller un peu à la confrontation et sans créer sans aller à la désobéissance civile, en fait, rien ne se passe. La préfète d'Ardèche n'avait pas encore bougé son petit doigt pour cette question-là, alors que ça faisait un an qu'on l'interpellait. Et puis, du coup, des jeunes motivés ont décidé de créer une ZAD, une zone à défendre, pour occuper illégalement les débuts de travaux, le chantier. Et en fait, grâce à la radicalisation en fait, de cette action, la préfète d'Ardèche a enfin daigné organiser la réunion qu'on attend depuis un an. Et on a fait appel tout de suite à des élus régionaux, mais aussi à des élus européens avec qui on travaille main dans la main, qui portent nos revendications au niveau politique. Et grâce à cette mobilisation d'élus, de citoyens, de paysans, on a réussi en fait à faire en sorte que les travaux soient bloqués pendant 6 mois au moins. C'est une petite victoire. Pendant 6 mois, les travaux sont bloqués. Et on sait très bien que si les travaux sont relancés à l'automne, la ZAD prévue sera remise en place et on ira encore plus loin dans l'action de désobéissance civile, quoi. Du coup, c'est tout un mélange, une stratégie très, très globale qui prend en compte autant la participation des élus, des mairies, des parcs naturels régionaux et nationaux que des citoyens et des militants un peu plus radicaux comme les zadistes avec qui la Confédération paysanne travaille main dans la main depuis surtout Notre-Dame-des-Landes, quoi. Voilà. Mais c'est sûr que sans élus, en fait, les élus, pour nous, on les utilise, entre guillemets. C'est un relais politique important qu'on utilise à tous les échelons, que ce soit les mairies au niveau territorial, mais aussi les échelons régionaux, nationaux et européens, quoi.
Thank you, Fanny. Zoe, do you want to answer the same question about what are the core arguments, the core elements on which you base your, your relationship with the local authorities?
At the Ecological Land Cooperative, we actually need to get permission from the local authorities to put up polytunnels, to have a barn, to live on the land, to work the land. So we have to present this very, very good face to the local authorities and tell them why we deserve to have these permissions, which I don't know how it is in other countries, but it feels quite extraordinary that we have to go to so much trouble in this country in order to be given these permissions. When we go to the local authorities, we talk about the need to have new entrants. We have an average age here of farmers of around 60, and we talk about the need to allow for younger people or just people from outside farming to be able to enter farming. We talk to the local authorities about the need for agroecology, and we show them all of the science and reports of the benefits of agroecology in terms of soils and climate change mitigation and so on. And we talk about the importance of the local food supply chains. But we are just met with so much resistance, and more recently we've been given more research from universities to support our work, where we can say, where we get the inevitable questions from local authorities or government, but why is this really providing any public goods? Doesn't this look it doesn't look like proper farming? We don't really want it. Tell us why we should be investing in this. We have to then present to them, okay, this is the benefit for soils, this is the benefit for well-being, this is the benefit for climate change. Almost in numbers, in our current cultural context, I would say that we have to make these arguments. So, for example, I recently met with the local authority that actually invited us in to talk about local food provision and said, can you advise us on how we could involve your cooperative to provide opportunities for local food? And I was met, even when I was invited in, with this kind of resistance of, well, you can't live on the land, it will be ugly. or well, we can't really allow that to happen. It's not what farming looks like. And then, you know, eventually maybe they kind of come round when we talk about, well, what alternatives are there? You know, how are you going to support younger generation of farmers? How are you going to support agroecology if you can't make some compromises on what you think are what you expect to see the countryside to look like?
Thank you, Zoe. Maybe two more questions before we turn to the questions from the floor, from the audience. I see that we have already 6 questions in the question and answer. So please keep sending your questions in. We will ask them to the panels in a while, in a few minutes. But before that, I wanted to ask you, how do you see the articulation with short supply chains like CSA, food co-ops, direct selling schemes in providing support for this action? Is there a support from these people who are actively changing the food systems? Is there support from these people on the access to land issues? I think, Fanny, you might say that yes, there is, but it can be also a trap or a danger in a way, from what I understood from the preparation of this call. Do you want to develop a little bit?
En fait, bien sûr, enfin, moi, je suis paysanne en agriculture biologique, en vente directe. Je vends tous mes agneaux, mes châtaignes, mes pommes de terre en direct avec plein de réseaux différents, dont des AMAP, tout ça. Et en fait, nos territoires et nos fermes sont des espaces tests d'alternatives. On a des savoir-faire, on a des pratiques d'élevage, des pratiques de culture qui sont de véritables laboratoires pour défendre des nouvelles alternatives de production. Et on met en place aussi des réseaux humains de vente, mais aussi de conseils, de formation. Tout ça, on le fait depuis des décennies. C'est ce qu'on appelle l'agriculture paysanne ou l'agroécologie paysanne à la Via Campesina. C'est ce qu'on fait, c'est ce qu'on pratique. Mais on se rend bien compte que produire sain, produire propre et consommer éthique, en fait, ça ne suffit pas. Ça ne suffit pas parce qu'on s'enferme vite dans des niches, en fait. On s'enferme vite à créer des petits oasis. Il y a la grande mode du colibrisme. Pour moi, il faut, on se doit, en tant que syndicaliste et militant, on se doit de critiquer le colibrisme parce que pour nous, on pense que c'est trop élitiste.
Fanny, je pense qu'il faudrait peut-être que tu expliques ce que tu entends par colibrisme.
Ben, le mouvement des colibris, c'est ça, c'est de dire on a chacun notre part, notre responsabilité dans le changement à venir. Alors ça, bien sûr, on en est conscient. C'est pour ça qu'on a choisi d'être paysan et on a choisi de pratiquer une agriculture comme on la pratique à la Confédération paysanne. Mais en fait, on ne peut pas s'en arrêter là. On ne peut pas se satisfaire et se suffire de produire propre et de consommer éthique. Ça n'est pas possible parce que face à nous, le rouleau compresseur néolibéral et capitaliste, il est énorme. Face à nous, il y a des multinationales qui accaparent nos ressources et nos terres. Face à nous, il y a des traités de libre-échange qui sont signés en permanence pendant la crise du Covid. Ils continuent à signer des traités de libre-échange. On ne peut pas... En fait, pour nous, on dit que ce n'est pas assez politique en fait, de créer des petites alternatives, des petits paradis. Parce que oui, moi, j'habite dans un petit paradis, mais je ne peux pas être heureuse dans ce petit paradis en me disant qu'à côté, dans les villes à côté de chez moi, il y a une majorité d'humains qui souffrent économiquement et qui mangent, je vais le dire, de la merde. À la Confédération paysanne, on ne veut pas s'enfermer dans un système où nous produirions de l'alimentation de luxe pour les riches et on laisserait l'alimentation de merde de l'agroalimentaire aux pauvres. Ça n'est pas possible. C'est pour ça qu'il faut qu'on aille plus loin et que la vente directe et tout le système qu'on met en place d'alternatives, il faut qu'on le radicalise et qu'on le politise pour que les laissés pour compte du système, qui sont des victimes de ce système mondialisé complètement aberrant, il faut que ces gens-là, ils aient accès aussi à une alimentation digne, pour avoir une vie digne. Et du coup, il faut vraiment qu'on aille au-delà de... En fait, pour nous, on est obligé de se bagarrer contre les politiques actuelles. Il faut qu'on pèse dans de nouvelles politiques publiques pour que ça touche tout le monde, quoi, que tout le monde puisse bénéficier en fait de nos bagarres. Pas seulement nous dans nos petits territoires où c'est sûr, on a une vie assez dorée, quoi. Et en fait, c'est pour ça que je pense qu'il faut qu'on soit vigilant et que nous, en tant que militants de toutes les organisations qu'on a citées auparavant, il faut qu'on aille plus loin pour justement ne pas rester entre élites, en fait, dans une élite de gens qui avons les moyens de bien produire et de bien consommer, quoi. Il faut qu'on aille au-delà et la bagarre pour la terre, c'est bien pour ça qu'à la Via Campesina, l'accaparement des terres, c'est un sujet terrible, c'est un fléau au niveau mondial. La bagarre, en fait, c'est des gens de la base, c'est des mouvements de la base qui luttent contre l'accaparement des terres. Bien sûr, on a besoin des urbains, bien sûr, on a besoin de toutes les couches de la population, mais il faut faire attention de ne pas s'enfermer dans on produit propre, on consomme propre, ça suffit, quoi. Non, non, il faut aller au-delà, il faut qu'on pèse sur les politiques publiques pour que tout le monde, tous les humains sur cette terre en bénéficient. Voilà.
Yeah, thank you, Fanny, for reminding us of the need to have a systemic change and not to be only, you know, like relying on individual behaviors. Maybe Jan and Zoe, you want to add something to what Fanny just said in terms of the role of, let's say, the consumers, these extraordinary amount and diversity of new food systems. Fanny underlined that there can be also a trap or a limit to this movement, but do you want to add anything or to go to respond to Fanny?
Jan, do you want to add anything?
Well, yeah. So if I might, yeah, it was quite overwhelming from Fanny. I just short remark from what we have been experiencing here in the CSA development in last few years was that as the longer the movement is being developed, the more people are, of course, like joining in, the lesser or more suitable is the contact of the people to the ideals, to the land and so on. The more people who come in, the more they perceive CSA rather than as a service or as a box scheme or something else. So this is very important part of the CSA to not to stop with the education or with involving people into the let's say ideology behind it, that the CSA is not about buying fresh food or whatever, that it's about the whole systemic change, about the societal transformation, as I'm convinced with. So this is one part, and the other part I wanted to confess was that we saw that the people who are joining the system in here are like not the well-off ones, are not the ones that have money, but are the ones that have education. And I think this is the main game changer, that people who have awareness, regardless of their social wealth or economic wealth. It means that even I know teachers, for example, who don't possess loads of money, are involved in CSAs and in the initiatives that are dealing with the access to land, and helping them even with their money, even though the money is a scarce resource for them, because it's the awareness that makes the change.
Thank you, Jan. Zoe?
I mean, my response to what Fanny said was that, for me, this is what she was talking about, in that we need to keep involved with everything that's going on in our world. This is precisely why, for me, I was part of setting up the cooperative, because for me, by setting up the cooperative, we bring land from private ownership to community ownership. We also create livelihoods for ourselves, which are not continuing to support a destructive system. Sorry, it's an important point, but it's hard for me to articulate it well. For me, we're growing the strength of our movement by bringing land into community and cooperative ownership. And our cooperative will always be involved in political action alongside our work to bring land into cooperative and community ownership. And in fact, our background, we all met during anti-road protests, and we continue to some extent always move between the different types of land issues, land action. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. Let me ask maybe one last question from the list of questions I prepared beforehand. I have a question regarding the technicality of doing this access to land or these land struggles. There is an important aspect of understanding the legal frame, having the capacity to work on the legal aspects. It's a very complex issue. So do you have any concrete tips to give to maybe some of our auditors today who want to get installed somewhere, or who want to start a struggle to defend a piece of land somewhere? What would you say they should do in terms of building their capacity on the legal aspects? Fanny?
Alors, nous, à la Confédération paysanne, on dit toujours que la lutte juridique, en fait, elle va de pair avec la lutte syndicale et militante. On a été traîné dans les tribunaux depuis toujours, depuis les luttes foncières du Larzac, le démontage du McDo, les fauchages OGM. En fait, on est en permanence traîné devant les tribunaux. Et en fait, ça fait partie pour nous de l'action militante, et ça nous permet en fait d'avancer sur la question du droit. Nul n'est censé ignorer la loi. Du coup, aller devant les tribunaux, pour nous, ça fait partie de la bagarre. Et du coup, on se rend compte qu'en tant que paysan, quand on est face à d'autres usagers du territoire, on est les voisins et autres, on est très vite confrontés aux questions de droit et aux questions de la loi. Et du coup, on a créé dans le sud-est de la France depuis 15 ans des comités d'action juridique où en fait on forme, en tant que paysan, on se forme à l'action juridique. On travaille main dans la main avec des juristes militants, et on se forme pour accompagner en fait les paysans qui se trouvent face à un problème juridique. On les accompagne devant les tribunaux paritaires des baux ruraux pour les défendre face souvent aux propriétaires ou aux autres usagers des terres. Et du coup, grâce à ça, en fait, on a pris conscience que le droit, c'était pas quelque chose de figé. Le droit, il évoluait. Que le droit, on pouvait le changer en fait. On pouvait en créer de nouveaux, et que en fait, il fallait qu'on démystifie tout ce jargon juridique et tout ce monde juridique, parce qu'en fait, on doit pouvoir se l'accaparer, le droit, et le faire évoluer, quoi. Et réellement, là, à chaque fois, on travaille avec des avocats. En fait, on a créé un réseau d'avocats et de juristes très, très compétents sur les questions et agricoles, rurales, de la terre et militantes. Et en fait, on travaille main dans la main, et on se rend compte qu'on a plein de paysans de la Confédération paysanne au sein de notre structure qui sont devenus des experts du monde juridique, en fait. Et finalement, avec le temps, on s'auto-forme à ces questions-là, et ça nous évite d'être face à un monde juridique qui fait souvent peur aux gens, quoi. Et après, c'est du long terme, hein. Moi, je pense qu'il faut pas en avoir peur, il faut au contraire l'utiliser. Les questions juridiques, il faut les utiliser pour faire avancer nos bagarres, vraiment. Nous, à chaque fois, c'est ce qui nous a permis, la ferme des 1000 vaches, tous les gros dossiers de la Confédération paysanne ont avancé grâce aux bagarres juridiques qu'on menait en parallèle, quoi.
Thank you, Fanny. So, Zoe and Jan, if you want to say something very short on this, then we will move directly into the questions from the audience. Maybe you don't want to add anything, Zoe?
Sorry, you went quiet on me there. I didn't quite catch what you said.
So my question was just if you wanted to add something to what Fanny just said about building the capacity in terms of the knowledge about the legal frame.
Well, we've had the same experience. We've gone to volunteer advisors and lawyers to help us to become knowledgeable. I mean, when we started the land cooperative, we didn't have any experience in buying land or even in cooperative governance. So we had to go to a lot of independent advisors and get their support. We also went to other organizations like ours and asked for documents that they could share with us, experience they could share with us. I think the other thing I would say is that if you're looking for land on your own, it's hard to bring people in to support you. If you're looking for land as a cooperative or a community group, then more people are going to want to share what they've learned with you because they're going to feel that you're using that knowledge for the common good and not just for individual gain.
Thank you, Zoe. I think now we should go to the questions that were asked in the questions and answers. We already have 9 questions. I'm not sure we can address all of them, but you can keep sending yours and we will anyway find a way to respond. It might be after the webinar through the email to all those who registered for the webinar, but let's try to take at least a few of them. So I see a first question, which was, I think, from Victoria Moore, which was about the different cultural approaches on protecting agricultural land. And the question is, can the different countries use the other's approaches or not? I think we got a sense listening to you that there are quite a few cultural differences in terms of going on fight, maybe the cultural political context is pretty different, but I think the question is like, can we benefit from each other even across cultural differences? What would you say about that, Jan?
Well, so to say, of course, the things that are like on the ground are totally different, like the legislation, the history, the cultural backgrounds of people, and the development of the farming and the land ownership. It's all totally different. However, there are various things that you might get at least inspired, or at least in our case, this has been true in all the issues that we've been dealing with in Ampi in recent years. We always looked outside from our bubble and try to get inspired by the others, what they have been doing. So, for example, in the issue of CSA. We were seeking for a way how to make like the organic food not a luxury goods, but to make it accessible more broadly, and to make it to make farmers being involved in the system more than as suppliers, but partners. So we got inspiration from France, Germany, UK. And we brought farmers over there into these countries, and took something out of it, and created system that's somehow similar to the countries where we receive inspiration, but somehow different according to the context and the background here. And the same it is with the access to land. We are somehow involved in the access to land network, where there are numerous organizations from all over Europe, and everyone has their own site specific approach, but the ideals or the tools or whatever might be very much the same, or might be used by others. So it's important to in my point of view, to talk to the people who are doing the same thing in the other countries, who are maybe fighting the same struggle in different backgrounds, and to get inspired, and not to take the tools, or I don't know, as something that's set in stone, but rather take it as an inspiration, and as something that you might use in your context, in your own way, with the people who are you working with. So that, for me, it's the inspiration, and also the momentum, the thing that you feel alone in your own context. For example, sometimes you feel as a nuts, and then poking out to the world, and seeking that there are more other people who are dealing with the same thing, and they are maybe more advanced, they are maybe more successful than you, and that always helps to not to give up.
Thank you, Jan. I will go for another question maybe now, because we have so many asked. One question comes from somebody from Georgia, Kara Nadiradze. It was asked in French. Basically, the question is about the UN drop, so the UN declaration on the rights of peasants and other populations working in the rural areas. And the question is, I think we could translate the question in a way that we could ask you, is that text coming from the United Nations? Is that something you are using in your own context, something you are aware of, something important also for you who are working at the grassroots level on the field? I could start by asking Zoe, and then maybe Fanny will have something to say about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the work at the Land Cooperative, we never get to use things like the Peasants' Rights Declaration, because when we speak to our audiences to get, for example, permission to do our projects, we unfortunately have to keep it very apolitical, because we could really quite easily frighten, for example, the local authorities. This is how it feels anyway, that the environment that we're in here is that, yes, it's, I'm going to use the word maybe a little reactionary, you know, a little is very sensitive to language, which is really unfortunate, around things like peasants' rights. But over time now, and obviously through the Land Workers Alliance, we're beginning to turn that around and start talking in different terms. But my work has been 12 years with the Land Cooperative and only 1 year with the Land Workers Alliance, so I can't speak about the extent to which the Land Workers Alliance have used the Peasants' Rights Declaration.
Thank you, Zoe. Fanny, perhaps on the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Peasants?
Moi, je pense que c'est assez récent, hein, du coup, on ne l'a pas encore vraiment utilisé au niveau juridique, mais en fait, ce genre de déclaration, ce qui est presque aussi important, c'est aussi tout le processus qu'il y a eu pour créer cette déclaration, pour la mettre en œuvre, pour la porter auprès de l'Europe, des Nations Unies, de nos propres gouvernements. C'est tout un processus très long. Il y a eu énormément de travail entre les différentes organisations de la Via Campesina, du coup avec des paysannes et des paysans du monde entier. Et en fait, je trouve pour l'instant, parce que c'est assez neuf, assez récent, c'est tout ce travail, cette somme énorme de travail qui a été fait. Justement, tout à l'heure, on demandait sur les différences de culture en fonction des pays, de réussir à créer cet énorme travail de réussir à porter une déclaration commune. C'est énorme, en fait, de se rendre compte que, en fait, malgré nos différences culturelles, justement, on réussit à sortir un texte très, très puissant et important qui touche à tout, en fait, à tous les différents toutes les différentes strates du monde paysan, du monde des pêcheurs, des peuples premiers, tout ça. Enfin, c'est assez incroyable. Et je pense, pour revenir au sujet qui nous intéresse aujourd'hui, à savoir la terre, on est en train, au niveau de la Via Campesina Europe, avec tous les partenaires cités de Nyéléni, on est en train aussi de travailler sur une directive foncière européenne. Et là, pareil, en fait, on se regroupe avec nos différences culturelles, tous nos différents pays, pour réussir à sortir un texte fort à défendre auprès des instances européennes pour défendre le droit à la terre et lutter contre l'accaparement des terres. Et en fait, c'est aussi tout ce processus-là qui est super important. Et en fait, ça nous permet, nous, en tant que militants, mais aussi en tant qu'organisation paysanne, de nous former, en fait. C'est un énorme espace de formation pour tous les militants qui ont eu à travailler sur la déclaration des droits des paysans et sur la directive foncière européenne qui devrait, j'espère, voir le jour d'ici 1 an ou 2, quoi. Voilà.
Thank you, Fanny. I see a question which is focusing on Latin America. So the question is how to apply this manual in territories occupied by organized crime. I think this type of question, except if somebody from the panel has knowledge about this area, otherwise we will probably ask our specialists within our organizations, and we will send a written reply to this question. Otherwise, there were a couple of questions which were basically questions about the French context. Once again, somebody is asking, is the confrontation, the battle, is it possible to avoid it? Is it unavoidable in the French context? Is it all the time warfare? Because otherwise the political decision makers are not listening to you. And I think also François Théry had a question about the relationship with the Ministry of Agriculture in France. Are you a little bit, how to say, is there openness to your positions or not at all? And are you represented in the commission? So I think, Fanny, you already explained a little bit that you are active in the commissions at local level, commissions on land use regulation and so forth. But could you try to respond very briefly to this question, which is perhaps more like at the national level, what is the situation and the connection with the Ministry of Agriculture in France? And briefly enough so that we have a time for other questions.
Alors nous, en France, là, il y a la question, êtes-vous représentés dans les commissions? Oui, nous sommes représentés dans les commissions au niveau national. On participe aux commissions ministérielles sur tous les sujets, hein, qu'elles soient les sujets fonciers, mais aussi tous les autres sujets de production ou autres, parce qu'on est un syndicat représentatif qui est élu à travers les élections aux chambres d'agriculture. Du coup, oui, on participe. Et en fait, ça va avec la question, est-ce que la confrontation est inévitable? En fait, nous, on aimerait bien qu'elle soit inévitable, qu'elle soit évitée, plutôt, je veux dire. On aimerait bien pouvoir réussir à négocier et à porter des revendications sans avoir à aller à l'action et à la confrontation. Je pense qu'on y est arrivé. Hein. On a quand même, heureusement, en 30 ans de vie, on a eu plein de belles victoires. Sans forcément aller à la confrontation. Et on se dit aussi que s'il n'y avait pas la Confédération paysanne, on pense que l'agriculture en France serait encore pire, parce que souvent, dans les réunions ministérielles, justement, on essaye de créer un contre-pouvoir par rapport aux syndicats majoritaires, la FNSEA, qui elle, depuis des décennies et des décennies, depuis toujours, travaille de concert avec les ministères qui se succèdent. Et malgré les alternances gauche-droite en France, on se rend compte qu'on bataille toujours autant. Après, avec certains ministres de l'agriculture et de l'environnement, on avait quand même plus de facilité à travailler que d'autres. Genre actuellement, c'est très, très compliqué de travailler avec le ministère de l'Agriculture. Mais en tout cas, on siège dans toutes les commissions et on permet en fait aux projets et aux propositions de loi d'être moins pires que ce qu'elles sont. Et après, quand on se rend compte que ça ne va pas du tout dans notre sens et ça va rarement entièrement dans notre sens, forcément, on passe à l'action un peu plus radicale et à la désobéissance civile parce que jusqu'à preuve du contraire, on n'a pas trouvé d'autres moyens pour faire avancer les lois. Hein. Enfin, on parlait tout à l'heure de bagarre juridique aussi, ça va ensemble. Mais si le monde était comme on le souhaiterait, je pense qu'il n'y aurait pas de confrontation, mais malheureusement, on est forcément obligé de passer à la confrontation. Sinon, ça ferait longtemps qu'on mangerait des OGM et que les petits paysans comme je suis, je pense qu'on serait rayé de la carte en France s'il n'y avait pas eu toutes ces bagarres menées par la Confédération paysanne, quoi.
Thank you, Fanny. I see in the questions and answers, we also have some exchange about how to get land for newcomers. So I see that Felix from Germany is looking for land, as a wannabe farmer from around Frankfurt. And I see that Gail gave some advice and the link even to look for a piece of land in France. So it's really nice to see that among the auditors, we had people really looking for starting their farm somewhere, and that we can also be used as a broker to make communication between people who are looking for land and those who can provide with some answers. There was also a question, but maybe we already went quite thoroughly in depth on the French context. There was a question about the Triangle des Gonesses, but perhaps we can find a way to reply to Victoria after the webinar. I don't know if anybody from the panel would like to say a last word before we start closing the discussion, and I would like to invite the auditors to remain actually with us because we need to share with you a link to a poll so that you can evaluate this webinar so that we can do even better the next time. So please stay tuned with us. Somebody from the panel wants to add something to what has been said? A last word? A strong message?
Well, if I might step in, just a few words.
Of course. Yeah.
I just wanted to say a few things about the struggling, and as far as I see here in the Czech Republic, we more often, if I can dare this generalization, we far more often than go into conflict, we compromise, and our approach therefore is like. Not struggling, because the life we are promoting and we are trying to bring into the world cannot be struggled for. How can you struggle for life to be lived? And therefore, what is our main approach is that we are trying to make the lively and functioning systems that are sustainable within the context that's here, with including some new ideas. Let's say cooperation and commitment and so on, as opposed to the dominant system of concurrence and competition. So here the struggle is not a strong point. The far more stronger point is creating some parallel reality that I believe gains momentum, gains strength, and influences the mainstream, in my point of view, far stronger than if we struggle, if we push, because always when you push, there's pushback. So we are trying to form a parallel new system somehow by the way. That's the approach that we are successfully experiencing here, even though there are of course people who are struggling, and it's really great, but it's not our way at the moment.
Thank you, Jan. I cannot resist asking a new question that came up in the question and answer part. And your answers, Zoe and Fanny, will be your last words, and try to be brief as you've been doing since the beginning. So the last question is, what are the links between the panelists and the movement for the commons, the commoners, the commons movement? I'm not sure how you say in English, le mouvement des communs, which is emerging a bit everywhere in the world right now. So what are your connection, Zoe and Fanny, with the commoners? Zoe.
I really hope that's the truth, that it's emerging through the world. That's really wonderful news if that's what people feel they see. For me, the work of the Ecological Land Cooperative is creating more commons. We're doing just that. We get as much land into community and cooperative ownership as possible. What's interesting is potentially is do people feel that is how they define commons? The way that I'm defining it here is that we bring land in that's owned by everybody within our community and cooperative, and we keep building our cooperative, and we keep building other cooperatives to do the same. And together we collectively make decisions about how the land is used, and we make sure that land is always kept for is considered in terms of the way it's used, not who owns it. So is it being used well? And we always respect the person that's on the land making a livelihood, but we also want that person to know that person's on the land when other people are not on the land, and that the cooperative as a whole and the community as a whole also has needs and views. So together we try and think about how that land is used. So for me, that's the closest that we can come to recommoning the land in the UK. And we have a very, very long way to go here.
Thank you, Zoe. Very good answer. Fanny, sur le mouvement des communs.
Enfin, sur la question des communs, parce que le mouvement des communs, je ne sais pas, moi je ne le connais pas en tant que mouvement en France. Il y a plein de mouvements qui travaillent autour des communs. Je ne sais pas s'il y a un mouvement particulier qui est cité ici, mais en tout cas sur la question des communs et entre autres de l'usage de la terre à la Confédération paysanne, mais aussi à Via Campesina, et en particulier dans ce travail-là qu'on a mis en place depuis 2 ans pour mettre en place une directive foncière européenne. Cette question-là, elle est centrale, et entre autres en France, où la propriété privée, la sacro-sainte propriété privée depuis la Révolution, qui a fait beaucoup de mal sur toutes les questions de spéculation, de capitalisation des terres. En fait, on essaye de mettre en avant l'usage de la terre, le droit d'usage de la terre plutôt que le droit de propriété. C'est une sacrée bagarre à mettre en place parce que le droit de propriété est très fait l'unanimité ici, en tout cas en France, mais travailler sur l'usage de la terre, le droit à l'usager, du coup ça peut être aussi des usages collectifs. On le voit dans le nord de l'Europe avec les Samis, le peuple Sami qui passe sur des terres privées qui appartiennent à des agriculteurs et à des forestiers, mais qui, du coup, dans la déclaration foncière européenne, on va mettre en avant le fait que comment faire en sorte que les droits collectifs et les droits communs puissent aussi coexister avec le droit de propriété, même si dans l'idéal, on aimerait vraiment faire sauter le verrou de la propriété privée. On sait que c'est une utopie un peu lointaine, mais en tout cas, c'est certain qu'il faut que ça soit au cœur de notre réflexion de parler d'usage de la terre et non de propriété de la terre, quoi.
Thank you, Fanny, and thanks to the 3 panelists for their insights. So please let me remind you that this webinar was recorded and it will be fully available within a few days. So stay tuned. It will be shared on the Access to Land website. You have the link in the chat now. Thank you very much to our guests and to all of you once again for joining us. And again, a huge thanks from all of us to the voluntary interpreters who have enabled us to understand each other and to build stronger links between us. Thank you as well to the whole team of partners, project partners, for their great support in terms of organization. We'll organize one more webinar before the autumn. It will be the 16th of July on access to land for youth at 2 p.m. Central European Summer Time, same time as today. And we will continue the webinar series after the summer. So we invite you to check the Access to Land website or to register for our newsletter if you would like to stay in contact. And we will now put up a short poll so that you can share your thoughts and help us improve the preparation and the content of these webinars. So please take just not even 5 minutes, 1 minute maximum to answer it. We will keep the meeting open a few minutes more so that you have time to fill in the poll before ending the meeting. And thanks again for all your questions. I think we had up to 15 questions. Once again, some of them were answered in the questions and answers chat. Some others were answered by the panelists live, and some others were left unanswered, but we will find a way to send you the answer. I see that actually some of the auditors are also responding to other questions, which is very good. Thanks a lot. For example, Gaël Louedon from Normandy about the comments. Thanks a lot, everyone. I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes to leave you the possibility to click on the link to the poll. And thanks again, Fanny, Zoe, and Jan for your great insights. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.